Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions, here to talk about This Is Us, Season 5, Episode 5, The Long Road Home. I'm super excited to be back, though I honestly haven't really gone anywhere. I've been doing the rewatch videos, but still, it's good to see a new episode. Before going any further, I will tell you that this is not a spoiler-free video, so if you have not yet watched the episode, I would highly recommend that you do so, and then come back and watch me. If you like this video and my content, please subscribe to my channel, so you can be notified when new videos come out. The episode description reads as follows. Kate confronts her past, Randal's viral fame leads to an unexpected discovery, and Kevin debates his future. All in all, I was pretty pleased with this episode. I liked Kevin and Randal's threads. I was a little less enamored with Kate's. There were some aspects of it that I liked, but I also have some problems with it, and I will certainly be getting into it. We start in the present-day timeline with Kate and Toby, minutes after the conversation from the last episode started. Kate is telling Toby that when she was a teen, she had an abortion. Something she never told anyone. Not her brothers, not her mother, no one. Toby's initial problem with this is that this hasn't come up, ever. And Kate's defense of that is that it's not something that comes up in normal conversation. Toby replies, well, yeah, actually, it kind of is. And I was a little confused where he was going with that, because no, it really isn't. But he follows that up with, when we were trying to get pregnant, we were constantly talking about pregnancy, and that did seem like a natural time to discuss it. Now, some fans were a little annoyed with Toby here for making this about himself, but he has this problem, he expresses it, and then he gets over it and moves on. Relatively quickly. He morphs into, I want to know this guy's name, so I can find him and kill him. Kate laughs at this and says, that's very sweet, but not necessary. That this is all in the past. Toby isn't so sure about that, given that it took her 4 years to tell him. We cut to Toby in bed sleeping, and Kate Googling Mark on the internet. This part of it is fine. I won't say that I haven't done something like this in my time. Where it goes from here, I'm not as convinced that that's okay. But we'll get into that. And credits. I've made note in my rewatch videos about how long the cold opens are. This one is only 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Which is relatively short compared to the first season cold opens. We cut to Madison and Kevin. First time we've seen Madison since episode 3. It was only really a 1 episode absence. But my heart hurt every second that she was gone. Kevin is all proud of himself for having put together a changing station, when he gets a phone call from his agent, and he doesn't seem very pleased with that, with whatever the agent is saying. When he gets off the phone, he tries to play it off like nothing's going on. But Madison is like, do you mind telling me what that was about? And Kevin tells him that because of COVID, they want to move the movie that Kevin is currently shooting to Vancouver, and that he would be gone for 4 weeks. 2 weeks for shooting, and 2 for quarantining. And because of the unborn babies, Kevin does not think that he can be gone that long. But Madison suggests that they do the math. And according to her, he would get back and there would still be 5 weeks before the babies were due. So she tells him to go ahead and go. We cut to Randal entering the office while talking to his mother. He comes upon some music playing, and the entire office dressed in fake muscle-bound suits with boxers over their pants. We even see Malik in the crowd. And I don't know, Malik. I mean, you got an internship out of the deal, so you're pretty much in the clear. But still, I'm not sure if I were you that I would be participating in this. But that's just me. Jaewon follows him into the office and tells him that he needs to show him something. And Randal says, I don't know that I would be saying that while wearing a naked man suit. Jaewon agrees and starts to try to take it off, but he's having trouble doing so. So Randal has to help him out. Eventually, he shows Randal a piece of paper with a complaint. Or rather, a message disguised as a complaint. Randal reads it over, and he doesn't look happy. We cut to the past timeline with Teen Kate in the abortion clinic. She's asked a series of questions, and all of her answers are barely above a whisper. She eventually learns that this situation will not be taken care of today, that she needs, by law, 24 hours before she can do it, after meeting. Cut to the present day timeline with an adult Kate, who's arrived at a decision. She goes into the Jack's room and tells Toby that she thinks that she basically needs closure, that she needs to go and see the guy, because she found out that he lives in San Diego. And I really don't think this is a good idea. There has to be a different way to achieve closure than this. But Toby's on board, and Toby agrees to go with her. I'm not sure that I would have. In the past, Teen Kate has arrived home, and the phone is ringing, which she doesn't answer. It turns out to be her mom, telling her all about their trip to New York and how Kevin did. Kate is listening and looking completely miserable. She eventually gets up to try to intercept the phone before Rebecca hangs up, but she doesn't quite get there in time. We cut to Rebecca, who is hanging out with Sophie, Kevin, Randal, and Beth. Sophie says that Kevin has great news. He got a call from a talent manager who was at his showcase. I'm wondering if this is the same talent manager that was played by Katie Seagal in the second episode of the series. Kevin says that the agent said he has the right look for television. And Randal says, oh, so it's about looks, huh? Beth checks him a little bit and says, let him talk. And Kevin goes on to say that the agent said it was pilot season and she wants him to go to New York to try out some for pilots for a few months. Randal asks Sophie, well, what about her? Is she going to be going with him? And Sophie replies that she has school. And Kevin says, I'll be back before she even has a chance to miss me. Randal doesn't seem that convinced. We cut to the present day timeline where Madison and Kevin are having a meeting with a real estate agent. Kevin mentions that he might be going and traveling a lot, which Madison does not seem pleased with. We cut to Randal coming home and Beth being surprised that he's home early. She quickly picks up on the fact that he's a little upset. The complaint form that Randal got was from one Hai Lang, who wrote him a little message saying that he thinks he knew her brother. He recognized the name William Hill on the viral video where Randal was stripping. In the letter, Hai Lang mentions that he was close friends with his mother and was with her at her side when she died in May 2015. Which means, by the way, that Laurel is not alive. And as demented as this sounds, I am pleased by that. Not because I harbor any homicidal tendencies towards her, but because I was not thrilled with this plotline, as I went into detail about in the season premiere video. I just thought we were going into soap opera territory. Bad soap opera territory at that. Not only that, but it proves my theory from the prior episode titled Honestly, that we were going to be meeting this Hai character and not Laurel herself. And that is absolutely something that I can live with, that I don't have to cringe through. Because I was not looking forward to Randal being reunited with his birth mother. I just thought that was too much. Included in the complaint was a picture of Laurel. And Beth asks, "Is that her?" And Randal responds, "How would I know, Beth? I've never seen her before traveling upstairs." Okay, wait a minute. Are you telling me that William didn't have any pictures of Laurel that he could have showed Randal? When we return from commercial, Randal is putting his shoes on and looking at the picture of William and Laurel. Beth enters the bedroom, and Randal says that he's thinking about going to get some crab legs. And he quickly kisses Beth and starts to take off. And Beth is like, "Nah, this is not a peck and go situation. We need to talk about this." And by the way, peck and go, I think that would make for a great store. Randal isn't too thrilled about the idea of delving back in with trying to figure out his past. And he's especially unhappy with the idea that William could have lied to him about what happened to his mother. And I sort of see his point. Like, what does he gain from that? She's dead, so there's going to be no reunion there. And the positive relationship that he shared with William during his brief time could be tarnished, knowing that he lied. Beth suggests that he talk to his therapist. And Randal doesn't really think like he needs to. He just needs to go for a run. But Beth basically believes that he really should go talk to his therapist, which she says to herself after Randal has taken off. And during this sequence, we actually have a flashback to William and Randal talking, which occurred in episode 3 of the series, Kyle, which I covered. But we see a little bit more of that conversation that we didn't get to see, about William describing what happened to Randal's mother. Great to see Ron Cephas Jones again, even if very briefly. We cut to Madison and Kevin. Kevin has picked up on Madison having an issue, and he thinks it's with the real estate agent. Though I'm not sure he really thinks that. I think he's trying to figure it out. And he starts with that. But Madison gets straight to the point. She says that jetting all over the country with the kids and the nannies wasn't exactly the life that she had in mind. And Kevin tries to make another joke about, well, what if it's a private jet? But that doesn't land very well. Kevin is a little confused. He doesn't understand how she told him to go to Vancouver, but has a problem with him continuing to do that in the future. But Madison points out that going to Vancouver was before the babies were born, and everything else would be after. Madison says that Kevin has made a commitment to a lot of people, but he also made a commitment to her and the kids. And Kevin responds, I didn't realize that where we live was as important as us being together as a family. Madison asks, rather sarcastically I might add, how did you think this was going to work? That me and the kids would be like your international roadies? Kevin is getting aggravated, and he says, I thought we would stick together. And Madison responds, me too, in our home. Kevin quietly asks, what do you want me to do? Quit acting? It's taken me 20 years to get here. And Kevin says that he's not exactly in a position to dictate where they shoot things. And he says he's struggling that any of this is news to Madison. And she says it's not. But it is something that she hadn't considered with everything that has been going on. Madison tells him that she is not trying to give him a hard time, but she was ready to do this on her own, and he insisted on being a part of it. And she fell in love with the idea of their family. And after a beat, Kevin sits on the bed with her and says, I fell in love with that idea too. Now, this conflict makes complete sense to me. I would have been shocked if this never came up. The fact of the matter is, Kevin, as an actor, lives a certain kind of lifestyle. And it's even more complicated now with the coronavirus and everything that's been going on. And this lifestyle does conflict with having a family. We cut to a brief scene of Kate and Toby in the car, having driven up to Mark's work in San Diego. She spots Mark smoking a cigarette. Toby suggests that he can come in with her, but Kate says that she doesn't need that. And then we cut to the past timeline, where Teen Kate is knocking on Mark's door. Initially, Mark is very nice. Makes her some food. And then all of a sudden starts being mad at Kate for no reason that I can tell. They settle in on watching some TV, which is actually the movie Airplane. Kate suggests that they don't change the channel because once upon a time, Jack and Rebecca watched Airplane with a younger Kate, and they were laughing, which is what the image of them laughing in the trailer for this episode, that very odd shot of them out of context laughing at something that we don't know. It was very weird in the preview. But Mark is upset for some reason. I don't get what. Maybe he doesn't like the movie Airplane? I don't know. And honestly, I don't give a crap because I don't like Mark. Mark decides to go get a drink, and when he returns, Kate is gone. Good for you, Kate. When we return from commercials, Kate is talking to the adult Mark. And, I'm not going to go into this. I don't agree with what Kate is doing here. I think it's ill-advised and vaguely stalkerish. I'm not sure that Toby should be on board with this at all. But maybe he just doesn't want to fight about it. Kate eventually ends up reaming him out with a nice speech. It is a nice speech. But again, I don't agree with any of this. I don't think it's a good idea. The best revenge in my mind is living well. And honestly, I think it's best that maybe Mark thinks that you completely forgot about him. I'm not sure that I would give him this power by letting him know about any of this. None of this is terrible, but I can't say that I'm particularly pleased where this particular thread went. The good news, I think, is that this will probably be the end of Mark for good this time. We cut to Randal talking to his therapist. The therapist has obviously been filled in, and he asked the question, what would this mean to you if this were true, beyond William's betrayal? Randal brings up that he, at 16 years old, put an ad in the paper looking for his mom. And all he got in response was a couple of scams, which disheartened him to the point that he gave up looking for 20-something years. Randal says that she had 35 years to find him, and she never even looked for him. And the therapist points out, you don't know for a fact that that's what happened. The therapist says, let's look at it this way. At 9 years old, you were curling your tongue at random black strangers. At 16, you were putting an ad out in the paper trying to find your mother. And at 36, you hired a private detective to find your father. Your whole life, your instincts have been telling you that you need to know your history. And the therapist asks, why do you think you needed that? And Randal isn't entirely sure of the answer. To know where I came from, to know who I was, to feel connected, rooted to something bigger than himself. The therapist asks, did knowing William help you do that? And Randal responds, yes, it did. And the therapist asks, is there a chance that knowing Laurel's story could help you too? And I think the answer to that question is pretty obvious. Yes, it absolutely would. The therapist tells him, you're already in the journey, Randal. Why not stay all in? Cut to Kevin and Madison. Kevin is about to depart for Vancouver for 4 weeks. Kevin starts to give a little speech that Madison cuts off. And good for you, Madison. She tells him, I'm very aware that your family has exceptional speech makers in it. And oh, by the way, Madison makes Kevin breakfast in a bag. And Kevin, you better eat that, unlike those pancakes. But anyway, back to Madison. Madison says that she thinks he needs to spend that time away being real with himself to figure out how this relationship and this family is actually going to work and how the babies and I will actually fit into your life. Madison says, you said you were all in, and I bought that. Take this moment to decide if you really are. Kevin emotionally says, I am. And Madison again insists, take the moment. And once again I say, Madison, good for you. Kevin kisses the babies and Madison, and he takes off. In the past timeline, Randal decides to call Kevin and say that he doesn't think that Kevin should go to LA. And Kevin is like, yeah, because you don't think I'm talented. And Randal says, it's not that. He says, Kevin just got married. And Sophie is the best thing that has ever happened to him. And going to LA could really stress out their relationship. Kevin replies, Sophie and I have been together since we were 10. I think we can hack a couple of months apart. And Randal says, are you sure? Because if I think of anything coming between me and Beth, my stomach hurts. And Kevin replies, yeah, because you're whipped. And Randal says, I'm sorry I called. Kevin replies, no. I appreciate the concern. But Sophie and I are solid. And we are going to be okay. And when I'm a big star and I'm living in a mansion, it'll all be worth it. And Randal responds, okay, Kevin, whatever you say. And I gotta say that for Niles Fitch and Logan Schroyer here in this scene, this is the most like their characters, the adult versions of themselves that they've gotten to this point. Niles Fitch has done a pretty excellent job of capturing Randal in his teens throughout the series, but I think he's at his best here. And Logan Schroyer has never been better, in my mind. We cut to Kevin, who is riding in the back seat of a taxi, maybe an Uber, and he's looking at his phone and the picture of him and Madison on it. And he decides to make a phone call to Randal, who we cut to, who's looking at the photo of William and Laurel on his computer. He's still kind of conflicted. He sees a call from Kevin, and I can't help but think that part of him is thinking he doesn't want to answer. Things are still pretty weird between him and Kevin, and I don't think he's in a great emotional place to deal with that. And I gotta say that one thing I've appreciated about the season is they did not immediately resolve Kevin and Randal's fight from the previous episode. I was afraid they were going to do it in episode 1. And so far through 5 episodes, they haven't completely resolved it, and they don't here either. Not completely anyway, it's really just a start. Randal picks up the phone and asks if there's anything wrong with Mom or the babies. And Kevin brings up the fact that he saw Kevin's little strip video, and Randal laughs. Kevin says that it's hilarious. But Kevin says that it's not embarrassing at all. It comes off as very charming. Kevin asks about the girls, and Randal says that they are all doing good. Though he takes that moment to complain about Zoom schooling. There is a very long, awkward pause. Kevin tells him that he's found himself in a really complicated position with Madison. He's a little lost as to how to deal with it. And he says that his first thought was, what would Randal do? And that he has that thought a lot. And you can see that the words affect Randal, because there are tears forming in his eyes. And Randal says, that's a nice thing to say. And a nice thing to know. And Kevin says, I know that seems ironic, given all the horrible things that I said to you. And Randal starts to say, nah, man, we both said some terrible things. But Kevin isn't really assured by that. He says that Kate told him about some of the things that he felt back in the day as kids. And he asked Randal if that's really how he felt. And Randal replies, yes, that's how I felt. And Kevin says, wow, that's terrible, that's horrible. I can't imagine having to keep all of that to yourself. Randal, in tears, takes the phone away from his ear for a moment. Beth enters the scene. He looks at the picture of his mother. And he says, hey Kevin, I hate to cut you off, but I got a really important phone call to make. And he hangs up after Kevin says that he understands. There are some people who suggest that Kevin was only calling Randal to get some advice on Madison. And I don't really see that at all. I mean, maybe he was asking for advice and he just never got there. But he has shown throughout Season 5 that he wants to reconnect with his brother. That he wants to make things right there. And I genuinely believe that's what Kevin was doing. Call me optimistic. Call me naive. Maybe that's just how I want to feel about him. But that's what I genuinely believe. Randal has made a decision to call Hi about his mother. And he does so in typically awkward fashion with Beth at his side. Hi is happy and surprised to hear from him. During this conversation, Randal learns that doesn't think that William knew that she was still alive, which means that William didn't lie to him at all. And that is certainly a relief for Randal to hear. Hi says that he wished he could show Randal the place that his mother lived, the places that she liked to go, the things that she loved. And Randal suggests, after getting approval from Beth, non-verbally I might add, that he can indeed do that. If he's willing, they can come and see him. And Hi is very excited at this news. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the episode ends. The next episode, titled Birth Mother, looks to be mainly about learning more about Laurel. So you and I have that to look forward to. Anyway, that's all I gotta say for this episode. If you like what I do here, if you like this video, there are a couple ways that you can support my channel. You can follow me at Core Productions on Twitter. You can join my Facebook group, Corman Productions, where you will get regular updates on the types of videos that I am considering. You can buy something from my Zazzle store at cormanproductions.com. The links of which will be provided in the description of this video. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Corman Productions, signing off.